What if the most powerful engine for learning wasn't really about, memorizing facts, but more about igniting this spark, this relentless drive to solve mysteries? Or maybe you've noticed how some people just seem to be natural innovators, constantly brimming with fresh ideas almost effortlessly. Today, we're doing a deep dive into that very spark, something truly foundational to how we experience the world: curiosity. We've pulled together a really fascinating set of sources for this. We've got a rich qualitative study looking at curiosity and learning from both students and teachers' points of view, plus some compelling insights on personal growth, creativity, how leaders actually use curiosity for innovation, and this is key for all of us, in practical, actionable ways to cultivate this powerful trait in our own lives.
Yeah, and our mission here really is to unpack the many facets of curiosity. We'll look at everything from its sort of neurological roots all the way through to its very real-world impact on, learning, personal development, problem solving, even leadership.
And what we really want to explore with you is how harnessing this innate drive can genuinely transform the way you engage with the world, how you acquire knowledge. So whether you're prepping for a big meeting, trying to pick up a new skill, or just seeking more of those genuine aha moments, understanding curiosity is, well, it's a shortcut to being truly well-informed and honestly to making learning feel more like an adventure. Let's really dig into this. So let's start right at the core. What is curiosity, fundamentally? Why does it matter so much? Our sources consistently define it as this innate, universal human trait, that the deep desire we all seem to have to understand, to discover, to connect the dots. It's often called the engine of intellectual growth, right? The force that propels us into exploration and learning.
Exactly. And what's interesting isn't just that it's innate, but how the sources really elaborate on its significance. They describe it not just as passive wonder, but as a dynamic force, a catalyst for effective learning. It's an active, sort of transformative force that fuels engagement and deepens understanding way beyond just surface facts. It's seen as a truly potent force and a fundamental human trait.
So it's not just a nice to have thing. It sounds like it's almost a prerequisite for real, meaningful learning.
That's a great way to put it. And, connecting this to the science bit is where it gets really compelling. Neuroscientific research, particularly from the Britannica Curiosity Compass, points out that curiosity actually triggers dopamine release. That's the brain's reward chemical. So this doesn't just make learning feel okay. It makes it feel enjoyable, genuinely rewarding. It creates this amazing positive feedback loop. The more we learn, the more dopamine we get, the more we want to learn.
Oh,
And this fits perfectly with findings that our brains are kind of wired to ignore the boring stuff and really focus on whatever sparks that curiosity. What's really profound, I think, isn't just that curiosity makes you happier, but it seems to be this proactive emotional regulation tool. By constantly seeking novelty, seeking understanding, you're not just filling knowledge gaps, you're actively maybe reprogramming your brain to find joy in uncertainty, turning potential anxiety into excitement.
that's a really powerful idea. So beyond this, brain reward system, what does cultivating curiosity actually do for us in our daily lives? The sources highlight some pretty surprising benefits.
Let's get into those. First, and this might sound a bit dramatic, but for survival and well-being, curiosity is actually pretty critical. It helps us navigate our world by keeping us vigilant, making sure we gain knowledge about our environment, which is always changing. And beyond just surviving, curious people tend to be happier. They report higher positive emotions, less anxiety, and overall greater life satisfaction. It's like a built-in buffer.
A resilience mechanism.
Kind of, yeah. Second, it gives a direct boost to achievement. Studies clearly show curiosity leads to more enjoyment and participation in school, which translates to higher academic achievement. And it's not just school. We see it in the workplace, too. Greater engagement, better performance. It makes sense, right? When you're interested, putting in the effort is just easier.
Less of a chore.
Exactly. Third, and this one's really interesting, it expands empathy and strengthens relationships. When we're genuinely curious about others, especially people outside our usual social bubble, we get a much better understanding of different lives, different worldviews. Showing real curiosity in conversations, what some sources call reciprocal self-disclosure, actually makes people see you as warmer, more attractive. It builds closeness. Even in critical fields like healthcare, you see this. Doctors who are genuinely curious about their patients' perspectives, they tend to make better decisions and achieve better treatment outcomes.
That makes a lot of sense.
And finally, maybe the biggest one, curiosity fuels lifelong learning. It fundamentally changes education from being this temporary phase into an ongoing journey of exploration. This mindset isn't just about collecting facts. It's about continuous personal and professional growth that, well, it never really stops.
Those are incredibly compelling benefits, but I do wonder, is there ever a point where curiosity becomes maybe a distraction or even unhelpful? And flipping that, if it is this powerful engine, what actually fuels it? What influences curiosity, and how can we spot it when it's happening?
That's a really good question and touches on some nuances we should definitely circle back to. But focusing on what fuels it first, the research points to several key factors in, say, a learning environment. Top of the list is intrinsic motivation, that internal drive, wanting to know just for the sake of knowing. Then there's novelty and complexity. Things that are unfamiliar or intricate just naturally grab our attention. Perceived relevance is also huge. When information feels like it matters to us personally or is applicable to our lives, curiosity just lights up.
Right, the what's in it for me.
Exactly. We also see autonomy and control being really important. Feeling like you have some say in what you learn and how you learn it really boosts that internal drive. A positive learning environment is absolutely critical too. Feeling safe to ask questions, even the dumb ones, without fear of judgment, getting encouragement. That's vital. And of course, today, technological engagement, interactive media, digital tools can be a powerful way to enhance and direct curiosity. Finally, don't underestimate inspirational role models. Teachers, mentors, even peers who just embody that curious spirit, they can be incredibly influential.
Okay, so if those are the influences, how does this spark actually show up? What does it look like when someone is learning driven by curiosity?
Well, it shows up in a whole range of behaviors and deeper cognitive engagement. It often starts with questioning and inquiry, right? Actively seeking information, asking probing questions, really digging in to understand more deeply. Then you see exploration and investigation. Learners are driven to explore new topics, new ideas, maybe through independent projects or experiments. They want to get their hands dirty, so to speak.
Max?
Curious people are also just generally marked by their active participation. They jump into discussions, and importantly, they make interdisciplinary connections. They don't see knowledge in silos. They instinctively try to connect ideas across different fields, recognizing how things link up. One student in a study mentioned this epiphany moment, where history, women's studies, Italian literature, philosophy, all these seemingly separate classes suddenly just kind of came together. It's like intellectual sparks flying.
Wow.
And curiosity is deeply linked to critical thinking and problem solving. It pushes us to look at problems analytically, break them down, and search for creative, innovative solutions. And maybe surprisingly, it builds persistence and resilience. When you're curious, you're more likely to see obstacles not as dead ends, but as interesting challenges, opportunities to learn more.
Okay.
Ultimately, this all fuels a desire for independent learning, seeking out knowledge and resources far beyond any formal class or instruction.
What really struck me in the sources was how this isn't just one monolithic thing. Curiosity seems to express itself differently depending on the subject. It takes on different flavors.
Absolutely. It manifests quite distinctly. In science, for example, it's often about that rigorous experimental inquiry, constantly questioning natural phenomena. Why does that happen?
Yeah.
In mathematics, it might look more like a playful exploration of problem solving, investigating patterns and relationships. For history, it becomes this inquisitive exploration of the past, critically examining why societies developed certain norms, always asking why then, and what if things had been different?
Right.
And for foreign languages, it's often a blend of exciting cultural exploration and a deep dive into grammatical nuances. Why does this language structure things that way? We even saw a computer science student mention their curiosity being sparked by web programming, specifically because they could immediately see the result. That tangible feedback fueled their drive.
That makes total sense. Which, of course, leads to the big question. If curiosity is so beneficial, how do we actually nurture it? In ourselves, and maybe in others too. The sources offered some really practical strategies, things anyone could try.
They really did, and it often starts with just being more intentional, building certain habits.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most powerful one is simply to ask more questions. And not just the surface what or when, but digging deeper with why and how. The 5 whys technique is great for getting to root causes. Asking open-ended questions that invite detailed answers, not just yes/no. And a simple habit, like keeping a curiosity journal to note down questions that pop into your head, can be really effective.
I like that journal idea.
Yeah, and one source even encourages asking dumb questions and divergent questions, things like, what if, or I wonder. Because the real power isn't just getting the answer, it's the act of asking. It forces your brain into this active gap-detecting mode. It turns learning from passive reception into an active quest.
Right, it engages you differently.
Exactly. Another great strategy is to consciously explore new topics and read widely. Deliberately pick up books or articles outside your usual zone. Maybe enroll in an online course on something totally unrelated. Platforms like Coursera, Udemy, Khan Academy are great for this.
Mhm.
Or just pick up a new hobby. As one source put it, that feeling of being interested can act as a kind of neurological signal, basically telling your brain, hey, pay attention, there's something valuable here.
Like a little internal compass.
Sort of. You should also actively try to step out of your comfort zone. Travel somewhere new, try a new activity, a cooking class, rock climbing, whatever pushes your boundaries a bit.
Yeah.
Or even just make an effort to meet people with different backgrounds and perspectives. New experiences are like fuel for curiosity. Simone Nago shared her story about climbing Kilimanjaro, a really challenging, risky thing for her, but it led to huge personal growth precisely because it forced her to engage with the unknown.
Wow, that's a big step.
It is. But even smaller steps work. And this next one sounds simple, but it's powerful. Listen more. Remember that saying, we have two ears and one mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. Active, genuine listening opens you up to perspectives you'd completely miss otherwise.
That's definitely hard to do sometimes.
It takes practice. Another tip, try to abandon routine occasionally. Shake up your daily patterns. Even small changes can open you up to novelty and trigger new thoughts. It gives your mind space to wander and wonder. Also, try to surround yourself with curious people. Go to speaker events, join book clubs, volunteer, take classes. Being around others who are actively learning is contagious.
Yeah, that energy can be infectious.
It really can. And don't forget to be curious about yourself. A bit of introspection, reflecting on your choices, understanding your own motivations, and how you learn best. That enhances self-awareness. This self-curiosity can actually help counteract things like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where we sometimes overestimate our knowledge. It keeps us humble and open to learning more about ourselves.
Okay, that's important.
And finally, reflect on your experiences and teach others. Journaling helps internalize what you learn. Setting specific learning goals keeps your curiosity focused. And explaining what you've learned to someone else formally or just chatting with friends is one of the best ways to solidify your own understanding and often sparks new questions. For leaders especially, creating that psychological safety where failure is seen as a learning opportunity, that's gold. It encourages the risk-taking that curiosity thrives on.
Okay, so this really moves us from just personal growth to, well, collective impact, doesn't it? Curiosity isn't just self-help. It sounds like a critical skill for tackling problems, for innovation, especially now in such a fast-changing world. It seems fundamental for navigating all this uncertainty.
Absolutely. You could genuinely call curiosity a leadership superpower. It drives us towards deep understanding. It compels us not just to skim problems, but to examine them from all angles, get comprehensive insight. Techniques like the 5 whys we mentioned, they're built on that principle, get to the root cause, not just the symptom. And this curious mindset directly fuels creativity. It encourages that out-of-the-box thinking. Think about someone like Leonardo da Vinci. His incredible innovations came from his insatiable curiosity across so many fields, anatomy, physics, art. He didn't stay in his lane. He asked what if everywhere.
A true polymath.
Exactly. And we see this in modern real-world leadership examples too. There's a biotech executive who turned around an R&D team just by asking, what are we missing in the data? That single curious question led them to a groundbreaking treatment. Or a CTO facing declining results who asked, what if we started this whole thing from scratch, sparked a totally novel solution? And a CEO who unified a global workforce by going on a listening tour and simply asking people, what inspires you to do your best work?
Yeah.
It's curiosity as a tool for connection, for motivation.
Those are powerful examples.
They really show brain-based learning in action. Teachers can tap into this by giving students the what's in it for me, making learning feel relevant. They can use things like cognitive writing to help students process ideas or set up guided investigations, experiments, research projects that demand real cognitive engagement and applying knowledge. Using structured problem solving helps students build mental schema, these frameworks for thinking that help them recognize and tackle complex problems later. Because knowledge ultimately doesn't do much good until you apply it.
We've painted a really positive, vibrant picture of curiosity, but, are there any downsides, any complexities, or maybe even a shadow side we should be aware of?
That's a really important question to ask. And yes, while it's overwhelmingly positive, the sources do acknowledge some nuances. There can be a shadow side. Curiosity, especially when you're facing big information gaps or feeling swamped by new information, can sometimes bring anxiety with it. Students in one study described these learning moments as hard, challenging, even difficult, especially when adjusting to new places or struggling to find resources. But crucially, these struggles were often part of the process overcoming obstacles, persisting. It suggests that friction can actually be part of deeper learning.
Okay, so not necessarily bad, but maybe uncomfortable sometimes.
Exactly. Another critical distinction some sources make is between what they call neoliberal curiosity and critical curiosity. Neoliberal curiosity is described as this drive to learn only what boosts your career or income. This kind of curiosity for profit can, ironically, lead to anxiety or depression if it clashes with your genuine self-motivated interests.
I could see that.
In contrast, there's critical or resistant curiosity. This is the kind that questions assumptions, challenges the status quo. Think about major social movements, the civil rights movement, #MeToo. This kind of curiosity is often collective, communal. It's focused on critiquing harmful systems and pushing for real change. It's curiosity with a conscience, perhaps.
A very different flavor of curiosity.
Very different. And one last interesting point from academic settings. Students often love library spaces, saw them as holding this wealth of information, even finding special collections super cool.
Yeah.
But they didn't always directly connect the librarians to sparking their curiosity. They saw them more for practical help finding a specific book, sorting citations. This isn't a knock on librarians at all, but it highlights a need for educators, librarians, maybe all of us, to consciously think about creating conditions where people feel motivated, capable, and safe to explore. And maybe reframing roles slightly to be seen more as active curiosity agents.
That's a great point. So we've really journeyed through this, haven't we? Seeing how curiosity is this intrinsic motivator, a catalyst for deep learning, a driver of critical thought, and an engine for innovation and growth. It seems it can make us happier, more empathetic, definitely more resilient.
And like that one source said so well, the more we learn, the more we will realize that there is still so much more for us to learn. It's this wonderfully infinite cycle.
It really is. So thinking about everything we've talked about today, the huge impact of curiosity, maybe the question for everyone listening is, what one small intentional thing will you do today to nurture your own innate desire to know? How might just asking why or what if a bit more often change the next conversation you have, the next problem you tackle, or maybe even the whole path of your own learning journey?